Hello everyone, welcome to the recording for week 4. Excuse me, have a little cold, sorry about that. This is the second recording for week 4. So I'm going to go ahead and click on week 4. And of course I already have the recording done for section C. So you can see that would be Monday and Tuesday of week 4. And then this recording is for section D, which is Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday you would take the unit exam. So this is everything we're going to be covering, and we're moving into the part about political parties. And of course this is really interesting since we just had our elections, right, 1 week ago. And of course President Obama got re-elected, and there were some issues in the election, and I'm sure, at least I hope you saw the debates and heard about those. And this unit talks about debates between presidents and differences in political parties and all of those types of things. So it's really a current matter as far as what's happening in our society. So here we are in week 4, halfway through the class. I'm going to go ahead and minimize that, and then go ahead down to where the Democracy and Government in Modern America unit, and we're at section D, the political party system in America. So that's the name of this unit. And obviously before we get started, I want to always take a look at the Class Connect write-up, because that's this recording can guide you in that. So the Class Connect write-up. Again, section D, what are the two main things that most people base their political party affiliation on? So as we look at this, we see that each year in the elections, or every 4 years the presidential elections, the parties put together a mission statement. So you can click right here, you can hear the mission statement of the Democrats and then the mission statement of the Republicans. And obviously what they say is going to be pretty generic, pretty general. They don't want to be real specific in their mission statements, because they don't want those mission statements to turn any voters off. They want voters to be on their side. But you can see that the parties have mission statements that outline hopefully what they're going to do. And when you start talking about political parties, identifying what party you belong to begins with the social values and beliefs. So the party that you belong to, for most people, is based on their social values and beliefs. So whichever party is more closely aligned to the social values and beliefs that you have, you're more likely to be part of that party. And of course a lot of the political party affiliation begins from your parents. Most people, whatever their parents were, then they signed up to be that party when they started voting as 18. And of course as we get older and mature and learn a little bit more about our government and our personal needs and such, then we might change parties and things. But anyway, these are the two things that help people develop or think about the party they want to belong to: their own social values and their beliefs. In this unit, we're going to explain how political parties began, describe the origin of the two-party system, how it changed our history, contrast the demographic, political, and cultural differences of the two parties, strengths and weaknesses of the two-party system, and look at the current third-party platforms and see what third parties, how they're affecting our elections. Okay, as we get into page 3, this starts talking about the political cartoon, where there's a caricature of Lincoln, and I hope everybody sees that. And you want to, one thing that might be good for you is, there are a couple of Lincoln movies coming out. One of them is kind of a silly one. I'm not going to see it, where Lincoln has these super normal powers and does all kinds of weird stuff. I think it's silly. But then there's also a historical Lincoln movie coming out. So I would encourage you, if you get a chance, to watch that movie. It might support some of the stuff that you learn in this class. So political parties, this is just a little warm-up activity. You can go right here and go look at the history of political cartoons. And political cartoons are really interesting because they, cartoon writers, and from around the country, of course, they look at the person and the person's party's beliefs and things like that, and draw interesting cartoons around them. So take a look at this website. You'll see some interesting cartoons. Okay, page 4, and I think we probably have a Class Connect write-up question. No, we don't. So on page 5 is when we'll start that. So let's go back. Okay, so on page 4, talking about presidential debates, and I hope you watched at least one of the debates. But here you can go and download, there's a video guide, then watch this video and see if you can answer some of the questions about the 2008 presidential debates. And of course that was between Senator John McCain and Senator Barack Obama, and then of course Obama won the election. And Obama and Mitt Romney had 3 debates prior to the election. And I hope you watch them, or certainly I hope your parents watch them to help them make educated decisions. Okay, now we're looking more, or still talking about political parties and the development of them, political parties in America. And you can see that when America's founding fathers wrote the Constitution in 1787, they didn't think there'd be political parties. They figured that the way the Constitution was written, separation of powers, checks and balances between the 3 parts of government, that there wouldn't be any need for parties. And because parties, they had parties in England, the Whigs and the Tories in England back in the 1800s. So they wanted to avoid the development of parties. However, in 1787, the Federalist Party and the Democratic Republicans became the first 2 political parties in America. So that's the answer. In 1787, the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. Now, isn't that interesting? Here's a party that was called Democratic-Republicans, and now, of course, we have Democrats and Republicans that are opposite each other. So they started in 1787. George Washington was not a member of any political party when he was elected. He's the only president that was not part of one. So the party system in the United States, it slowly developed. First there was the Federalists and the Democratic-Republican Party. And the Democratic-Republican Party, they are actually, it ends up being Democrats that we know of today. And you can see the people that belong to the parties right here, and how they, the leaders of each of the parties. Now, of course, over the year, the political parties, their beliefs and things like that have changed, but still they're diametrically opposite, meaning that they're completely different from one another. We'll learn a little bit about that in a minute. So go to page 6, and I'll go back to the Class Connect write-up. And I know we had the question on page 5. So page 5, referring when they first started, list the 2 parties, describe their differences. So you can see that on page 5. What purpose do political parties serve? That's on page 5 also. So I think I skipped that, so I need to go back to that. So as you think about it, if you look down here at the bottom, political parties are the foundation of the American political system. They represent the depth and principles of a group of citizens in regards to general issues. So that's the purpose of political parties, is to represent the depth and principles of citizens in regards to general issues. So Republicans represent people in a certain way and the issues they have that are important to them, and Democrats represent people another way. So that's the whole idea behind why we have political parties. And on page 7, starts talking more about political parties, and this is actually where you find the differences between Federalists and Democratic Republicans. Federalists believe in strong central government, while Democratic Republicans believe in limited national government or limited central government. So really, the way it is these days, Democrats believe in strong central and Republicans believe in limited national government. But back in the day, were the 2 things. So that is that answer on this Class Connect write-up question. This one right here, referring to they first started, so list the 2 parties, describe their differences. Well, those are the differences that those 2 parties had. Okay, number 6, page 6. Which political party replaced the Federalists when it dissolved? So as we move along, it starts talking more about, the Republican Party held, or Democratic Republican Party held power for 28 years, and the Federalists were becoming increasingly unpopular. And after the War of 1812, it stopped functioning. However, then the Whig Party came in. So the Whig Party came in to be the party against the Democratic Republicans. And the Whig Party was, they just took up the same beliefs that the Federalist Party had, but maybe not as strong. And the Whig Party came from Old English politics. So that's the party that came in place of the Federalists, was the Whig Party. Okay, so which party replaced the Federalists? That was the Whigs. Then page 7. What is the main reason for founding of the Republican Party? So we're at page 7. Now think about all this. In the 1800s, the country was growing. We had expanded, our borders had expanded past the Mississippi River from the east, moving to the west, expanding our borders, and more states are being ratified. So we're getting more states, and then what happened was, as states started coming in, slavery started being an issue. And a lot of people wanted slavery in the new territories to the west. And many people from the Democratic Party, they left the party and formed what was called the Republican Party. So it was formed in 1854 to oppose the expansion of slavery into Kansas. So the Republicans did not want slavery to move beyond the current states. So that's the answer to that question. And you can see right down here, Abraham Lincoln won the Republicans' first presidential nomination in 1860. So he was a Republican, and obviously, as we know, he was against slavery. And we know that, right? Because he wrote the Emancipation Proclamation. So that's the answer to that one Class Connect write-up question. So the Republicans and Democrats are essentially what we had, and there were other names like President Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt. He lost the Republican nomination in 1912, so then he ran as a third party candidate for what's called the Progressive Party. He beat William Howard Taft, who was running, but he did not have enough votes to beat Woodrow Wilson. So it's pretty interesting that he had been president before and then changed parties, but could not win again. Okay, page 8 and the Class Connect write-up question. Let's see here. We don't have one, so on page 9, the differences between the philosophies of Democratic and Republican parties. But we'll look at page 8. So page 8 is a self-check. So go through this. See what you know. See what you've learned so far. Okay, page 9. So now we're talking about modern politics, two-party politics, Democrats and Republicans in the United States. So you can see this chart. This is from the old days, the Democrat-Republicans and the Federalists. So that was kind of from the old days. But now we can come down, and the way parties are now, the Republican parties are considered conservative party. Democrats, so you can read that. Democrats are the liberal party. So liberal is more individual liberty and equality, etc. More freedom to do things would be what liberal party is. To do different things, have different viewpoints. And here are the differences between the parties. Republicans represent more conservative stance, emphasizing traditional views of family, economy, church, and social structure. Democratic or liberals look at change and progression and the status quo, meaning changing things and social issues, but higher taxes on the rich. So you can think about that and understand why people are one way or the other. Now, one of the main things, of course, with traditional values for Republicans and social structure is, of course, Republicans generally are against same-sex marriage or same-gender marriage. Democrats in general do not think the government should have any say in who can marry whom. So that's just one thing that's different. But this paragraph right here, these sentences, do a good job of explaining the differences between the parties. And of course, the parties attract people from all demographics. Differences are more, socioeconomical and racial lines. But one thing about this, minorities are more likely to be associated with Democrats. Upper class citizens more with Republicans. It's just the way it is because of the way the Democrats and Republicans wish to have the government operate. So you can read down through here more about how Franklin Roosevelt, how he changed things when he was in office, and then in the 60s how things became changed quite a bit. And then in the 80s we started getting different types of parties. Third parties started coming in. But Republicans and Democrats have won every election, as you can see here, since 1852. Third parties have no chance. Okay, page 10. Let's go back to the Class Connect write-up. So we talked about that one. I guess I need to change my spelling right here. I'm going to fix that right here. So let's see if I can do that real quickly here. Describe the differences between the. So I changed that. Now we'll go back to it. Okay, so we did that one. Generally, what is the difference between the two main parties and any third parties? So you put the Democrats and Republicans on one side and third parties in the other. What are the differences between all of those? Go back to where we are here. We're on page 10. So if we look at this, based on the numbers, 49 Democrats, 49 Republicans, and 2 independents in the Senate. So we're getting into more of independents and third-party type groups. And the biggest difference between these, between the Republicans and the Democrats and the third parties, we'll look right down here. The biggest difference is that the two major parties focus on general philosophies, whereas independents focus on extreme beliefs in a few issues. So like Ralph Nader ran for the Green Party. So he had real specific agenda, real specific issues. And there were people that were running this time on specific issues like I think it was Roseanne Barr. She ran for president, and got some votes. She was a real presidential candidate. We had a lot more than just Obama and Mitt Romney. There were about 5 other presidential candidates. And Roseanne Barr, her policy was, her party believed in making marijuana lawful. So there are lots of people that run for offices, but we only vote for, obviously, for the main parties. But anyway, the differences between the two major parties and the third parties is that major parties have a general philosophy on a wide range of issues. So they have a general philosophy so they can get more people to vote for them, while third parties focus on extreme beliefs on a few issues. And here's a little video you can watch, a little presentation about the different types of parties we have these days. Hey, page 12 in the Class Connect write-up. Okay, page 11. Which animal mascot represent the two main American parties? Yeah, this is page 11. Okay. So a donkey, blue donkey, and red elephant. You've probably seen these pictures before. But the way these came about, the Republican is the elephant, Democrat is donkey. So easily to remember, Democrat starts with a D, donkey starts with a D. And that started back in the 1830s. A political cartoonist, we saw something about political cartoons earlier, wanted to depict the relationship between Andrew Jackson and the Democratic Party. He used a donkey because a donkey is considered a stubborn animal, meaning Andrew Jackson was considered a stubborn person. And then the elephant came in. For some reason, I don't know why, and it really doesn't say here why the elephant came in. Said Republicans are more socially liberal, so elephants are socially liberal or something. I don't know. But anyway, there's your answers for that Class Connect write-up question. Page 12. We have nothing on page 12. Page 13, one example of how a third party can influence an election. Now on page 12 though, I'd like you to go through this Venn diagram activity. If you click on this, then what you'll be able to do, you'll have two different parts of the Venn diagram, and you'll be able to type answers in each different part, then go down here and look at the answer key. See how close you got to it. And here's you're going to decide what Republicans believe and what Democrats believe. So give that a try, please. Okay, page 13. Now we're talking about third parties. And these would be people that aren't Democrat or Republican, and also not independent, but are an established third party. Like Patrick Buchanan. He was in the Reform Party at one time. So there are lots of third parties that come into these. The most famous one, of course, is the Green Party with Ralph Nader back in the 2000 election. And how can they affect the two-party system and the election? Well, the biggest thing is that a third party, if you look right here, a third party can draw votes away from the candidate of the party more closely aligned with the position of the third party. And that would enable the other candidate to win the election. And that is, excuse me, and that is what happened in the 2000 election in Florida. Ralph Nader won 92,000 votes in Florida, and a lot of those votes, if he hadn't been running, most of those votes would have gone to Al Gore. Al Gore would have won Florida, and Al Gore would have been president. But since Ralph Nader took 92,000 votes, President Bush ended up winning by 500 and something because people have voted for Ralph Nader and not for Al Gore. So this is how a third party can affect an election. It's really an important concept. Okay, page 14. How did Ralph Nader affect the outcome? Well, I already talked about that, but I want you to give a complete answer. So read this, listen to this about Ralph Nader, the Green Party candidate in 1980, and go through this and find out about it. Let's see, the Green Party, let's check this out here. What does it say about the Green Party? Nonpartisan, meaning doesn't belong to either side, but look at environmental conditions, education, and economics. So that's what Ralph Nader stood for. But the whole thing that happened, obviously, was the 2000 presidential election was really close. And as we see right here, George Bush won by 537, but Ralph Nader had received 97,000 votes. Most of his probably would have gone to Gore. And Gore would have won, and our country would have been completely different historically, right? But here, so George Bush won, and then of course George Bush won again in 2004. So Ralph Nader's party had a huge impact on that election and changed the history of our country. For better, for worse, who knows? Now the other thing about third party candidates is they tend to think differently about things. You can see right here, Ralph Nader attracted different voters, different types of voters. So that's why the Democratic Party started doing different things, like, Hillary Clinton wanted to be president, running Barack Obama, so giving people something different from the usual white male, which is usually who runs for president, right? Okay, page 15. So let's see here. The write-up question, nothing on page 15, but page 16. What does it mean to be an independent candidate? Okay, so on page 15, it starts talking about independent candidates. So like Jesse Ventura, he was a former WWF wrestler, independent party. He became governor of Minnesota. Jim Jeffers, independent congressman. So some independents win, not nationally, but in local election and state elections, some independents can win because the number of voters is so small. But in generally, they have no chance for national elections like president and things like that. In 15, or page 16, third party. So the third party, their power is they can take votes away from the major parties, but they have been able to win at local and state level elections. And here are a number of third parties over the years. Of course, the Federalists, they weren't really a third party when they were doing it. Neither were Democrat, Republicans, or Whigs. Those really, I don't think those were third parties. But a lot of these other ones, Peace and Reform Party, we still have. The Libertarian Party we still have. Socialist Party we still have. Most of these have gone away. So what was that Class Connect write-up question? It was page 16. What does it mean to be an independent candidate? Well, it simply means that you are not affiliated with either or any political party. So independent means you're not affiliated with any political party. Hey, page 17, homework quiz. We're not doing any of the homework quizzes now, so don't worry about this. You'll skip this. Page 18. Now, page 18 now talks more about third parties, and this is a discussion. We're not doing the discussion items in here, but I'm adding discussion items into the Class Connect write-ups. And Ron Paul was ran as a third party in the last election. He's part of a third party, but he ran as a Republican and didn't make it out of the primary, so he could not run for president. But he has some interesting ideas. He's a libertarian. Those are his beliefs, meaning government hands off of everything. But when we go down here, what I want you to do, the Class Connect write-up question says, if you feel the current two-party system is flawed, meaning is it messed up, what do you think needs to be done? If you don't think it is flawed, why do you feel it is working well? So you're going to support your answers here. So that's the Class Connect write-up question number 13. So you're going to answer that fully, please. Do a good job on that. You have page 19. We have a couple of questions. So that's 18. At page 19, this is a quiz. So if you do this, see, I oppose gun control, so I click that. So that aligns me, gun control aligns me closer to these. So what I want you to do is go through here and choose your choice out of all of these. And then once you get those answers down, then I want you to count up the number of Republicans, the number of Constitution, or whatever it is, and however many you have the most of, that will tell which party you are most closely affiliated with. Right here, public financing of campaigns. What that means is, do you think government money should be spent to finance these political campaigns? Like the $300 million that were just spent on the presidential campaign, should we do that or not? Same-sex marriage, I think you probably know what that is. The policy on the war in Iraq, what do you think we should do, should have done? Decriminalization of drugs, should drugs be legal or not? Then capital punishment, of course, capital punishment is killing people who are put on death row for murdering other people. Should we have it or not? Right now we do not have capital punishment, except in about 3 or 4 states. That's a state law. So go through and find out which political party you most closely affiliate with on these issues, and then on that Class Connect write-up, what you're going to do with that. So you'll do on number 19, you're going to do that activity, see who you're most closely affiliated with, but then also, what surprised you about your affiliation? And I don't want you to just put nothing. In fact, I'll probably change that question and say, what surprised you, or please describe your affiliation and what surprised you. So I'll expand that question a little bit. So I don't want you to just put nothing and then think you're done with it. So you'll do that, and then finally we'll move on to page 20. And page 20 is the quiz for this whole unit. So we've covered all of those items. And of course, there's the quiz right there, and the quiz preview as always, and then the unit exam. You go through that, and I'll post the unit exam preview over here. So that's all for this unit. Thanks for hanging in there. Right at a half an hour, so I look forward to your work coming in. Bye, everyone.